the deadliest wedgie of all time. Now, it may sound ridiculous, and I swear I'm not making this up. Somebody actually died from a wedgie, kind of. And no, this time it's not in Florida. In December of 2013, Brad Lee Davis took the life of his stepfather. He said he just wanted to embarrass him, but he ended up killing him. Basically what happened is a fist fight broke out between Brad and his stepfather Denver. Brad ended up giving him an atomic wedgie, and the waistband ended up around Denver's throat, strangling him. But people that discuss this case fail to mention the rest of the story. If Denver didn't die from the wedgie strangling him, he would have died anyway. He had head wounds consistent with being beat with an object, as well as taking photos of his stepfather clearly in distress, and staging the crime scene so it looked like an all-out brawl. The atomic wedgie killer got 30 years. This guy cut off his grandfather's ears and had them in his pocket. I couldn't make this stuff up even if I tried. Now, I'm not going to tell you what state this happened in. I just want you to take a guess. In March of last year, police were called to the home of Ronald Wells Sr. When police arrived, they found 77-year-old Mr. Wells on the front porch unresponsive. Parts of skin had been cut off of his arm, and he had 4 stab wounds in the chest, as well as his ears being cut off. Colby Parker told police that they had gotten into a fight and it was simply self-defense. He said, "I had a Vietnam veteran attack me and I had to defend myself and it got out of control." But upon police inspecting Mr. Parker, he had no wounds whatsoever. On body cam footage, the deputies asked Colby Parker where Wells' son was, and that is when he pulled the ears out of his pocket, calling them Ronnie and Ronnie Jr. Then, out of nowhere, he lunges towards officers trying to get their guns. He was tased and failed. Now, I can't show you the body cam footage on here, but if you want to check it out, it'll be on my Instagram. Make sure to drop me a follow while you're there. In a later interview with investigators, he told them that he had hit his grandfather in the head with a baseball bat before stabbing him. Now, the creepiest part about this story is an apron that was hanging on one of Parker's walls. The apron said "The Family Butcher" with a pair of plastic bloody ears hanging from it. Before the fight, the two were engaging in a little activity together that Parker said might have been laced. He also told authorities that he wanted his grandfather to be with his deceased grandmother and that it was his time to go. This guy is a 300-year-old werewolf. No, not really, but that is what he told a 12-year-old girl and convinced her to kill her own family. Jasmine Richardson, who was 12 years old at the time, committed one of the most horrific crimes in Canadian history. At a concert in early 2006, 12-year-old Jasmine met 23-year-old Jeremy Steinke. Jeremy believed himself to be a 300-year-old werewolf and liked the taste of blood. Also wore a vial of blood around his neck. Her parents ended up finding out about this relationship and quickly put it to an end, or so they thought. They were still in contact with each other, which is when they hatched their devious plan, which was simply to murder her family and live happily ever after. Jeremy was also highly influenced by the movie Natural Born Killers. Together, the couple planned the crime, and in April of 2006, they executed it. Jeremy took care of her parents, while Jasmine took care of her 8-year-old brother. She said that she didn't want him to grow up an orphan. Jeremy received 3 life sentences. Under the Youth Criminal Justice Act, Jasmine only served a maximum of 10 years. She was released in 2016 and now lives a secret life. This is the most evil teacher of all time. This is Danielle Harkins, former literacy teacher who became obsessed with extreme religions and demons. In 2012, she attempted to save 7 of her former students from demonic possession. This occurred in St. Petersburg, Florida, and yes, surprise, surprise, it's Florida. She requested that 7 of her teenage students meet her at a local park at dusk. When they arrived, she had a small fire burning, and they were instructed to dance and chant around the fire. They were then told they were infested with demons, and that should have been enough red flags for them to leave, but strangely enough, none of them did. To rid their bodies of the evil spirits, they were instructed to cut themselves. And to prevent the demons from getting back in, the wounds had to be cauterized, which is what the fire was for. When the students were hesitant to do such a thing, she took matters into her own hands. One student was cut on the throat with a broken bottle, and a small key was used to cauterize the wound. Another student was cut on the hand, and then perfume was used to light his whole hand on fire. To this day, none of the students will talk about this incident. The police only became aware of this when another student who was not involved reported it. She received only 6 months of jail time. This is Joseph's son, martial artist, kickboxer, professional wrestler, and actor. You probably aren't too sure who this is exactly, but watch the clip playing above my head, and then I bet you'll know who it is. Yes, he threw a shoe at Austin Powers. He's also serving 34 years to life for murder and gang. So it all started in May of 2008 when he pleaded guilty to felony vandalism. In August of the same year, he was taken into custody for violating his probation. He was required to provide a DNA sample, and then, you won't believe what they found out. That DNA sample linked him to a 1990 Christmas Eve gang. I'm not going to be going into any details about his gruesomely disgusting crime, but let's just say he racked up enough charges that he faced 275 years to life. The initial charges that he faced were actually dropped due to a statute of limitations. He was found guilty of one felony count of torture. In September of 2011, he was sentenced to 7 years to life. That's it. Just 1 month into his prison sentence, he killed his cellmate. At his 2017 trial, he was found guilty of voluntary manslaughter and received another 27 years. Safe to say, I'll never watch that movie the same way again. How karaoke in the Philippines could get you killed. Between 2002 and 2012, 12 deaths were connected with people singing the Frank Sinatra song My Way. Some people were simply singing out of tune, while others were hogging the microphone. In 2007, a karaoke bar's security guard lost his shit when somebody was singing My Way off key. The man was told to stop singing, but he didn't listen, so the security guard pulled out his gun and shot him. It got to the point where bar owners were actually pulling the song out of jukeboxes. And for those people who did want to sing the song, they would rent a private room in the karaoke bar just so they could sing it in private. The My Way killings sprang up again in 2018 when a 60-year-old man was stabbed at a birthday party. The senior man grabbed the mic from his neighbor right before the song My Way was about to play. This incited a fist fight, which resulted in the 28-year-old neighbor stabbing him. He was pronounced dead at the hospital.